The wind screamed across the frozen plain like a wounded predator, tearing at the wooden cabin as if trying to rip it from the earth. Inside, Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the rifle. He wasn't expecting visitors, especially not in a storm fierce enough to bury a man alive. But someone was out there. He could hear them. A sharp thud hit the door, then another, weaker this time. Ethan moved fast. He swung the door open, and the blizzard exploded into the cabin like a white beast. Through the swirling snow, 3 shapes collapsed at his feet and older. Apache woman and 2 young girls clinging to her like frightened fawns. Their faces were cut by wind, their lips purple, their clothes soaked with ice and desperation. "Help!" the older woman rasped before her knees buckled. Ethan caught her just in time. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. He dragged them inside, kicked the door shut, and shoved the heavy beam back into place. The storm slammed against the cabin again, furious at losing its prey. The girls huddled near the small fireplace, trembling as if the cold had reached into their bones. Ethan threw more logs onto the flames, the sparks leaping in protest before blooming into warmth. "Drink," he said, handing them a tin cup of heated water. The oldest girl hesitated, studying him with wary Aesop look Ethan knew too well. The world had taught her not to trust anyone. The mother finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "We were turned away. Everywhere. They said we were not welcome. Not worth saving." Her voice cracked like thin ice. "Then the men came. We ran." Ethan stiffened. He didn't need details. He knew the type of men she meant, who liked to play gods in a land they barely understood. Outside, the storm roared louder, shaking the cabin walls. But inside, something else took root, quiet, fragile, and unexpected. Safety. Ethan knelt beside the mother, checking her frost-bitten hands with surprising gentleness. "You're safe now," he said. "All of you." For the first time since they'd collapsed at his door. The older woman met his eyes. In them, Ethan saw not fear, but a flicker of hope's maw, stubborn, refusing to die. And he realized he'd just made a choice. Whatever danger was chasing them, it would have to go through him now. Morning came slowly, dragging its pale light across the frozen plains like a wounded animal. Inside the cabin, the fire had burned low, but its last embers still glowed faintly, casting soft orange strokes across the walls. Ethan stirred first. Years of living alone had made him a light sleeper, alert to every shift in wind, every creak of wood. But today, the sounds inside the cabin were quieter, unfamiliar. He rose, careful not to wake the 3 figures sleeping near the hearth. The elder woman lay closest to the heat, wrapped in one of his wool blankets. Her daughters curled beside her, using her arm as a shared pillow. Even in rest, they kept each other close, like branches from the same resilient tree. Ethan turned away, feeling something inside him tighten. He hadn't shared his home with anyone in years, not since the fire. Not since the night he lost everything that made the world worth waking up to. Back then, silence had been a punishment. Now, looking at the 3 sleeping figures, it felt almost peaceful. He set a pot of water on the iron stove, stoking the fire until it snapped awake with reluctant flames. The smell of burning pine filled the cabin. That was when he heard a soft rustling behind him. The oldest girl, maybe 14, had woken. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. But the moment she noticed Ethan standing near the stove, her hand shot protectively toward her. Mother, instinct, fear, readiness to flee if she had to. Ethan lifted his hands slightly, palms open. "Easy," he said. "Just making breakfast." She didn't speak, but her dark eyes tracked every movement he made. She was like a wild deer, not aggressive, just painfully aware that trust could cost her life. "Your mother needs something warm," Ethan continued. "You all do." The girl hesitated, then nodded once, curt and cautious. She didn't fully trust him, but she trusted the fire, the roof, the warmth. Sometimes survival didn't need more than that. The elder woman woke next. Her breath trembled as she shifted, but there was color in her cheeks, again weak, but returning. She met Ethan's eyes with a solemn gratitude that didn't need words. "You saved us," she murmured. "We will not forget." Ethan shook his head. Anyone would have done the same. But all three of them knew that wasn't true. Not out here. Not after what they'd fled. The woman's gaze drifted to the frost crawling across the window. "They will come," she whispered. "The settlers, they don't like when their prey gets away." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him like snow on a roof. He didn't look away. "Let them come," he said quietly. "You're not alone anymore." The storm had weakened by midday, leaving behind a world muffled under thick white silence. But the quiet was deceptive. Ethan felt tension coiling in the air like a snake preparing to strike. The elder woman's warning echoed in his mind. Settlers, armed, cruel, enough to chase 3 half-frozen women into a blizzard. He stepped outside, boots sinking into fresh snow. The cold bit through his coat, sharp and hungry, but he welcomed the sting. It cleared his thoughts. From the ridge above his cabin, he scanned the valley. Nothing moved except drifting snow and the dark skeletons of winter trees. But he knew trouble was out there. People like those settlers didn't give up the moment their prey slipped away. Behind him, the cabin door creaked. The younger daughter, no older than 8, peeked out. Her small face was half hidden behind the frame, her breath fogging the air. Ethan softened his voice immediately. "You should stay by the fire. It's warmer inside." She didn't answer, only stepped out enough to reveal a tiny carved figure in her handan. Apache warrior made from smooth river wood. She held it toward him timidly. Ethan knelt to be at her level. "For me?" he asked. She nodded, still silent. He took the carving gently. Its edges were worn from years of being held. "Thank you," he said. "I'll keep it safe." The girl's eyes flicked toward the tree line. "Bad men," she whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I know." She retreated inside before he could say more, closing the door softly behind her. The carving felt warm in his palm, as if it carried a memory of comfort. He tucked it into his coat, then walked toward the shed where he kept his tools. Inside, he pulled down the old Winchester he hadn't used in years. Dust clung to the barrel, but the steel underneath was still sound. As he checked the chamber, the weight of the rifle brought back echoes of another winter, another fight he hadn't chosen. He closed his eyes, steadying his breath. "Not again," he murmured. "But if I have to..." He returned to the cabin to find the mother awake, sitting by the fire. Her blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a worn shawl. "You plan to defend us alone?" she asked. "I plan to make sure no one hurts you again," Ethan answered. The oldest daughter stood nearby, arms crossed, watching him with a mixture of suspicion and reluctant respect. "Why?" she asked. "You don't even know us." Ethan hesitated. The truth felt too raw to speak, but he forced it out anyway. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything, and I'm not letting that happen to anyone under my roof." The mother lowered her gaze, touched by the weight in his voice. Outside, a distant crack echoed through the valley snow, breaking under something heavy. Or someone. The girl's eyes widened. "They're coming." Ethan grabbed his coat and rifle. Then let's be ready. The crunch of distant footsteps broke the fragile calm of the afternoon. Ethan heard it first, rhythmic, heavy, too deliberate to be the shifting of snow. He moved to the window in silence. The glass was fogged from the heat of the fire. But through the blurry frost, he could make out dark shapes emerging from the tree line. 4 men, maybe 5. Slow, confident strides. The kind of confidence born from cruelty. Inside the cabin, the air tightened. The elder woman placed a hand on her daughter's shoulders, guiding them away from the window. The younger girl clutched her mother's blanket, knuckles white. The older one watched Ethan instead, sensing his shift from calm guardian to something sharper, colder, honed by necessity. "Get to the back room," Ethan said, his voice low but steady. No noise, no light. The mother hesitated only a beat before nodding. She knew better than to argue when danger was already crossing the snow. While they moved, Ethan stepped to the gun rack and took the second rifle, a shorter, lighter one. He handed it to the oldest daughter. She stared at him, surprised. "I know you can use it," he said. "You've survived too much not to know how." She swallowed hard, fingers closing around the wooden stock, like she was holding a memory of her father or grandfather. "I won't fire unless I have to. That's all I ask." Ethan positioned himself by the door, breathing slowly. He could hear voices now, muffled by distance, but growing clearer with each step. Saw tracks heading this way. "Don't care who's holed up in that shack. The women belong to us." Ethan's grip tightened around his rifle until the wood creaked. A heat flared in his chest, not fear, but something more dangerous, something protective. He cracked the door open just enough to slip out into the blinding white. The cold struck him instantly, a hard slap across the face, but he welcomed it. It sharpened everything: his senses, his judgment, his resolve. He walked toward the approaching men until they finally noticed him and halted. The leader, a tall man with a fur coat draped over his shoulders like a trophy, stepped forward. His smirk split his frostbitten lips. "Well, looks like someone picked up our strays." Ethan didn't answer. "We're just here to collect what's ours," the man continued. "Hand them over, and maybe we let you keep that cabin." Ethan felt the carved wooden figure pressing against his chest from inside his coat, the gift from the little girl. He let that tiny warmth anchor him. "They're under my protection," he said. "You're not taking them." The men exchanged amused looks, as if he'd just told a joke. The leader chuckled. "Son, you're outnumbered. Don't make this harder." Ethan leveled his rifle. "I said no." The winter wind howled between them, carrying away the last moment of peace. The leader's smile vanished. "So be it." Snow whipped sideways as the first man lunged forward, raising his shotgun. Ethan fired before the settler could even aim. The shot cracked through the frozen air, echoing across the valley like a warning to the mountains themselves. The blast sent the man stumbling back, dropping into the snow with a grunt of pain rather than a cry. Ethan hadn't aimed to kill, but he had aimed to end the threat. The remaining men scattered, ducking behind broken trees and snowdrifts. The leader dove behind a fallen log, shouting orders that were swallowed by the wind. Ethan pressed himself against the corner of the cabin, forcing slow breaths as he reloaded. His fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the biting cold tightening its grip. Inside the cabin, the mother held her daughters close, listening to the chaos outside with terror widening her eyes. The older girl crouched near the back room's window, rifle steady, watching for any man who might try to approach from behind. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, but her hands stayed firm. She had seen men like this before. She knew what they were capable of. Ethan stepped out again, just as a settler attempted to flank the cabin. The man raised his revolver, but the girl inside shouted, "Left side." Ethan spun, firing a split second before the settler squeezed his trigger. The man tumbled sideways into the snow, his gun clattering uselessly against the ice. Ethan glanced back at the window. The girl's determined face disappeared into the shadows again. "Good eye," he muttered. Then the leader rose from behind the log, fury burning in his eyes. He aimed his rifle with careful precision. Ethan dove behind a stump as a bullet splintered the wood inches from his head. Snow puffed upward like a dying breath. "You're protecting them," the leader shouted. "Those savages aren't worth it." Ethan felt something dark twist inside him at those words. Memories flashed his wife's face. The flames that had consumed his home. The settlers who had walked away laughing. Pain, loss, injustice. He pushed it all aside, focusing on the present. "They're worth more than you ever were," Ethan growled. The leader roared and charged, abandoning cover. Ethan rose, bracing himself. But before he could fire, a sharp whistle cut through the wind. An arrow, small, hand-carved, unmistakably. Apache shot from the cabin's doorway and struck the ground at the leader's feet. He froze, startled enough to falter. The older daughter stood in the doorway, bow in hand, eyes burning with defiance. The leader turned toward her with a snarl. "You little—" Ethan didn't let him finish. He fired, the bullet slamming into the snow just beside the man's boot. A warning shot, but a deadly precise one. The leader stiffened, realizing just how close he'd come to death. Ethan stepped forward, rifle aimed squarely at the man's chest. "Your fight ends here." The cabin felt strangely hollow after the settlers vanished into the veil of white. Their retreat left behind only unsettled, trembling with the echo of gunfire. Ethan stood in the doorway for a long moment, boots buried in the snow, rifle still warm in his hands. The storm had quieted, but the air carried another kind of tension, the kind that follows violence and whispers that danger might return. When he finally stepped back inside, the warmth of the fire hit him like a gentle hand. The younger girl rushed to him first, her small fingers gripping his coat as though to convince herself he was real and still standing. Ethan bent down, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "It's over," he said softly. "For now." The oldest daughter lowered her bow, but didn't loosen her posture. Her eyes followed every movement he made as if trying to decide whether she should thank him or remind him that she could have fought beside him without his permission. Ethan respected that spark in her, the fire that had kept her family alive long before they reached his door. The mother approached last. She leaned lightly on the wall, still weakened by cold and exhaustion. Yet her gaze held something strong and unbroken. "You risked your life for us," she said. "Men like you, they are rare." Ethan shook his head. "I did what anyone decent would do." "No," she replied, her voice low, steady. "Most turn away. You opened your door." Her words struck deeper than she knew. Ethan glanced at the floor, at the snow melting into small puddles around his boots. "They'll be back," he murmured. "Men like that don't forget humiliation." The mother nodded. "Then we will help you prepare." "You need rest," Ethan said. "So do you," she countered. For the first time, a faint smile tugged at the corner of Ethan's mouth. He removed his coat and hung it near the fire. The small wooden carving the young girl had given him slipped out of the pocket, landing softly on the floor. She hurried to pick it up, dusting it off with care, then placed it back into his hands. "Protector," she whispered. Ethan stared at the tiny figure. Something warm flickered in his chest, an emotion he hadn't felt in years. "I'll try to be," he answered. As evening settled, he began reinforcing the cabin. He checked the shutters, tightened the door beam, moved crates to create barriers inside. The oldest daughter helped, silently mirroring his actions. They worked side by side, their movements cautious at first, then gradually more synchronized, as if instinctively learning each other's rhythm. When they finished, Ethan stepped outside to gather more firewood. The sky glowed faintly with the last light of day, an icy blue stretching endlessly. The world looked calm again, deceptively peaceful. But Ethan's instincts whispered the truth. Calm was only the space between storms. He carried the wood back inside, closing the door behind him. The mother watched him with quiet understanding. The night settled over the cabin like a heavy blanket, thick with the cold that seeped through every crack. Ethan kept the lantern low, its dim glow barely cutting through the darkness. The mother and her daughters sat near the fire, wrapped in blankets, their shadows flickering on the log walls. Though the storm had calmed, none of them felt safe enough to sleep. Fear lingered like a ghost in the corner of the room. Ethan checked each window again, confirming the shutters were tight. The oldest daughter watched his movements with a mixture of trust and suspicion, as if still deciding whether he was the kind of man who stayed true when danger returned. She held her bow across her lap, the string taut, ready. The younger girl, finally calmer, traced patterns in the blanket with her finger. When Ethan sat across from her, she looked up, offering a tired but genuine smile. He wasn't used to the feeling it stirred inside him, something warm, almost protective. "You have traveled far," he said quietly. The mother nodded. "Too far. We left our land after the settlers burned the fields. My husband tried to reason with them." Her voice tightened. "He did not return." Ethan lowered his eyes. He understood loss, understood the sharp wound it carved into a person. "I am sorry." She breathed deeply, steadying herself. "You carry pain to Ethan Cole." He didn't deny it. Once, long ago, the fire crackled, filling the silence. Outside, the wind shifted, brushing snow from the roof in soft thuds. Every sound set their nerves on edge. Ethan knew they couldn't stay in fear all night. He rose, walked to the shelf, and retrieved a tin of dried herbs. "These will help you rest," he said. The mother accepted the cup, her eyes grateful. The scent of the warm drink filled the room, easing the tension. Still, Ethan remained awake, listening, waiting, protecting. Because until the sun rose, the night belonged to whatever shadows dared to return. Hours passed in uneasy quiet. The fire dimmed to glowing coals, and the cabin breathed with the soft rhythms of those drifting into sleep. Ethan stood by the door, staring into the darkness beyond the small cracks in the wood. Something tugged at him, a memory of another winter. Another night when he had failed to protect the people he loved. He clenched his jaw, pushing the thought away. This time would be different. These women were under his roof, and he would not let history repeat itself. He tightened his grip on the rifle, feeling the weight anchor him to the present moment. He would not falter again. Dawn bled slowly into the sky, painting the snow in pale shades of rose and gold. Ethan hadn't slept at all. He stood outside the cabin with the cold gnawing at his bones, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. The night had brought only silence, but silence wasn't always mercy. Sometimes it meant enemies were gathering strength. Behind him, the cabin door creaked open. The oldest daughter stepped out, wrapped in a blanket, breath rising in small white clouds. She approached carefully, as though not wanting to disturb whatever thoughts he was wrestling with. "They will come again," she said softly. Ethan didn't turn. "I know." She studied him for a moment, noticing the exhaustion etched around his eyes. "You didn't rest." "Couldn't," he admitted. "Not while you're all in danger." The girl hesitated, then asked, "Why do you care?" "We are strangers to you." Ethan finally faced her. "Because once, someone needed my help, and I wasn't there. I won't let that happen again." She lowered her gaze, the sharpness in her expression softening. "My mother says people reveal their true selves in storms. Maybe this storm found the right man." Ethan didn't know how to respond to that, so he looked away toward the distant tree line. The morning light revealed tracks he hadn't seen the night before, deep grooves in the snow, leading away from where the settlers had fled. He crouched to examine them. "They regrouped," he murmured. "And they weren't retreating. They were circling." The girl knelt beside him. "They'll try again. Yes, but next time, they won't come in the open." They returned inside, where the mother was preparing what little food remained. The younger daughter sat beside her, trying to help despite her trembling hands. When they saw Ethan, both paused, sensing the shift in the air. "What did you find?" the mother asked. "Tracks," Ethan answered. "They didn't leave. They're planning something." Fear flickered across her face, but she masked it quickly. "Then we prepare." Ethan nodded. The cabin had survived one attack, but the next would be worse. Men like those settlers didn't forgive being denied what they believed belonged to them. The thought tightened something in his chest, not fear, but a fierce protectiveness he hadn't expected to feel again. He moved through the cabin, reinforcing every weak point, stacking wood along the outer wall, securing the shutters, setting simple alarms using tin cans and wire. The older daughter worked beside him, quick and determined, learning each trick he showed her. The mother watched with quiet pride, seeing a strange alliance forming, one shaped not by blood, but by survival. By noon, the cabin looked less like a refuge and more like a fortress built from desperation and stubborn hope. Ethan stepped back, wiped frost from his beard, and listened to the wind sweeping across the empty land. Something was coming. He felt it in every instinct, sharpened by years of loss. The afternoon sun struggled to break through the gray sky, its dull light falling across the frozen valley like a dying flame. Inside the cabin, the tension grew heavier with every passing minute. Ethan paced slowly near the door, listening for anything unusual beyond the walls. The mother and her daughters stayed close to the fire, though even its warmth seemed unable to chase away the cold, knot of fear that clung to them. The older daughter finally broke the silence. "They're watching us," she said, her voice quiet but certain. "I can feel it. Like eyes behind the trees." Ethan paused. He felt it too, that invisible pressure, the sense of being measured by unseen figures. "They're waiting for the right moment," he answered. "They won't rush again. Not after last time." The younger girl tugged gently at her mother's sleeve. "Will they hurt us?" she whispered. Her mother wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Not while Ethan is here," she said softly. "We survive because we stand together." Ethan heard the faith in her voice, and it struck something deep inside him. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man trying desperately not to fail again. But their trust pushed him forward, gave him strength he thought he had lost. He turned to the mother. "If things get bad, there's a place under the cabin floor. A space big enough for the three of you. You can hide there until I draw them away." The mother shook her head immediately. "We won't leave you alone." Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but she held up a hand. "You gave us shelter when no one else would. We fight beside you now." The older daughter nodded firmly, lifting her bow. The flame of determination in her eyes reminded Ethan of warriors he had once known, people who understood that some battles were not chosen, but unavoidable. Suddenly, a faint metallic rattle sounded outside. Ethan froze. The tin can alarm he had set near the back of the cabin trembled in the wind, then rattled again. Not wind. Footsteps? Ethan signaled for silence. The family huddled together as he moved toward the back window. He edged it open just enough to glimpse outside. Snow drifted lazily across the yard. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then, a shadow shifted behind the woodpile, deliberate, human. "They're here," Ethan whispered. At once, the mother pulled her daughters behind the table, shielding them with her body. The older girl placed an arrow on her bowstring, steady hands betraying none of the fear in her chest. Ethan checked his rifle. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low but unwavering. "No matter what happens, stay down. Stay quiet. And don't move unless I tell you." The mother met his eyes. "We trust you." Ethan exhaled slowly, bracing himself as he stepped toward the door. Outside, the shadows shifted again. The second assault had begun. The moment the second assault began, the cabin seemed to shrink around them, its wooden walls trembling under the weight of approaching danger. Ethan pressed his back to the door, rifle raised. Listening to the crunch of boots circling through the snow, the attackers moved with a new caution, their steps deliberate, their breaths hidden. They had learned from their earlier mistakes, and now they wanted to strike with precision. A sudden thud hit the wall beside the window, sending dust drifting from the beams overhead. The younger girl gasped, and her mother pulled her close, shielding her from any splinters that might follow. Ethan motioned for silence as another shadow passed across the window. The older daughter crouched near the corner, bow drawn, her eyes locked on the faint movement outside. She looked calm, but Ethan recognized the tension in her clenched jaw. A voice called out from behind the cabin, low and sharp. "We know you're in there. You can't hide them forever." It wasn't the leader. This voice was harsher, colder. Whoever he was, he carried authority now, as though the leader had yielded command to someone more ruthless. Ethan peered through the crack in the shutters. 3 men stood behind the shed, one aiming a rifle at the back door. Another held a torch, its flame too bright against the pale snow. Ethan's stomach tightened. Fire was a weapon far deadlier than bullets out here. One spark could turn the cabin into a trap. He moved quickly to the far wall, signaling the older daughter. She nodded and crept behind him, following his lead without hesitation. She had become a fighter in these brief days, forged by fear and sharpened by necessity. Ethan cracked open the rear shutter just enough to line up a shot. Before he fired, he whispered, "Brace yourself." The rifle roared, kicking hard against his shoulder. The man with the torch stumbled, dropping the flame into the snow where it hissed and died. Shouts erupted. The attackers scattered, returning fire blindly, bullets punching into the wooden walls. The younger girl screamed, and her mother covered her head. Ethan grabbed the girl's arm gently. "Stay low. Stay behind cover." Another shot shattered a jar on the shelf, spraying glass across the floor. The attackers were closing in, growing bolder as the chaos escalated. Ethan's heart hammered. They needed space. They needed a way to break the siege. Then he heard a faint creak beneath the floorboards. The hidden crawl space. A plan formed in his mind, sharp and necessary. The floorboards groaned softly as Ethan lifted the concealed hatch beneath the rug. The space below was small, cramped, and cold, but it offered something more valuable than comfort time. He motioned urgently to the mother and her daughters. "Get inside, now. I'll draw them away from the cabin." The younger girl clung to him for a heartbeat, her eyes wide with fear, before her mother gently guided her down into the darkness. The older daughter hesitated, torn between duty and instinct. "Let me help you fight," she whispered. "You already have," Ethan replied. "But I need you alive. Protect them down there." Their eyes met two survivors, bound by trust, neither expected, but both accepted. At last, she climbed down, gripping her bow tightly as Ethan closed the hatch above them, muffling their presence from the world outside. The gunfire intensified, bullets tearing into the timber near the door. Ethan reloaded and took a deep breath. The cabin could not withstand a long assault, and he knew the men outside would soon realize their prey had vanished. He needed to act before they did. He slipped out the back door, moving quickly between the snowdrifts toward the shed. The cold slapped his face, but adrenaline pushed him forward. One of the settlers spotted him. "He's out here," the man shouted, raising his rifle. Ethan dove behind a stack of firewood as a shot cracked past his ear. He returned fire, forcing the attacker to duck. The battle shifted into the open, away from the cabin, exactly what he needed. But more men emerged from the tree line. 4 of them, armed, determined. Ethan found himself surrounded, breath steaming in the air as he crouched behind the woodpile. The men advanced slowly, spreading out to cut off every escape route. Their leader, the man with the harsh voice, stepped forward. "You should have handed them over," he growled. "Now you die for nothing." Ethan rose halfway, rifle aimed. "I don't let cowards decide who deserves to live." The leader snarled and raised his gun butt before he could fire. An arrow sliced through the air and struck the snow at his feet. All heads snapped toward the cabin. The older daughter stood beside the window, bow drawn again, fire blazing in her eyes. "Leave him," she shouted, voice unwavering, "or face us both." The hesitation that followed was brief, but it was enough. Ethan fired. The leader stumbled. Chaos erupted, and the final battle began.